So, Kyle and Brent Pease, welcome to the Beyond the Game podcast. Before we dive in a little bit more about your story, I always ask each guest that comes on the show about what the power of sport means to them. So, over to you guys. What does the power of sport mean to you?
I think the power of sport is everything. It connects us. It brings us together as a community, and it gives people hope. It has given me a sense of purpose and a sense of hope. So I love doing sports with friends.
I think sports it's just such a binder. We learn about failure. We learn about how to win and how to lose. And we also learn what we're capable of. And I think that's always been what spoke to me the most is that piece. And especially now, given what I do with Kyle, that has rung, more true with each event that we do and that we witness of just seeing what is truly possible for individuals.
Yeah, I do believe that sport has this incredible power to create, craft, and build community, and as you say, also allow people to push their personal limits and what people think is achievable. For the people that are listening at home, could you just tell us a little bit about yourselves, who you are, your relationships, to give us some context?
Yeah, my name is Kyle Pease. I have cerebral palsy. That set over my ears. With my older brother by 2 years, Evan, as well. We grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. Sports was always driving force in our family. We were very close and uh, push ourselves beyond our limits.
So we compete in endurance sports. So Kyle, as he mentioned, all four of his limbs are affected through his condition. And so I act as the legs. And so largely we grew up in endurance sports through triathlon. So Kyle sits in a boat that's tied to my waist. I pull him through the water. We sit on a big 3-wheel bicycle that allows Kyle to sit on the front of the bicycle, trying to give him the most realistic experience possible. And then we push him in a specially designed run chair. And what we always talk about is that, with especially with the Ironman competition, that Kyle and I are racing for 14 to 15 hours. And so for 14 to 15 hours, Kyle needs all the physical tools that I have to help him get from start to finish. But the mental exhaustion, that the gymnastics that Kyle has to do throughout a day to remain positive, to keep me positive, to keep us moving as a team, it's physically and mentally exhausting for Kyle. I mean, his body does still go through it. I mean, relative to how we all experience, it does absolutely push Kyle to his physical limits. But I think more so on the mental side, that he has to push himself and me in ways that allow us to compete in the events that we challenge ourselves with.
Yeah, I read a wonderful article that described Carl as having a relentless positivity and an ironclad willpower. Carl, is that something that you've always had? Is it something you've developed over time? What do you think shaped that
Uh,
outlook and mindset?
yeah, I definitely think that our parents ingrained in me from a very early age to always think positively and focus on the good rather than the bad. Recognizing that every day is not gonna be a great day, and just embracing those times. So when you're having a bad moment, those moments that you embrace, that you acknowledge, they make you stronger in the end. But it has definitely developed over time. Now that I'm an athlete with Brent and, focusing on our persevering and the relentless spirit that really guides us.
I mean, we said it, sports teaches us about winning and losing, about failure. And so Kyle had to learn those lessons at a very early age. To be, confined to a wheelchair when kids are 7, 8 years old running all over the place, and then Kyle's kind of waiting for somebody to help him move, or he's moving in a different way. So I do think personally that Kyle has some skills that he's built up. Our parents helped guide that, but he's sharpened it on his own. And certainly now there's not many people that have done the things Kyle's done as an athlete. So I think he's continued to refine those skills.
It's something that's great to see, and especially to know that he's the one that kind of keeps you going and digs you out when things get tough. How did you get into endurance events? Where did the idea come from, and how did that kind of then transition into the idea of competing in an Ironman?
I mean, it was really started for me as kind of a post-college journey of just personal improvement, personal fitness. And as Kyle watched it go through, it really sparked his curiosity. And it culminated at an Ironman event in 2010 in Louisville, Kentucky, that Kyle witnessed. And, for him, watching 2,800 other people compete in addition to what I was doing, it really furthered that. And Kyle actually spent that day with our family and a woman named Betty here in Atlanta. And he just kept talking with Betty. And by the end of the day, he was ready to ask me if it was possible to do this thing together. And and we've had this close connection. We've always tried to do sports together. We always modified the way we did it. We always found ways to include Kyle. And this became the catalyst to say, we can do this together. In fact, Kyle can be every bit the athlete Brent is. And now we realize he's much more of an athlete than I could ever hope to be.
You also qualified for Kona, which is the elite of the elite, the best of the best. Was reaching Kona ever a goal? And were there ever kind of stages along the journey where you were told that wasn't possible?
Yeah, no, with the ultimate goal in for anybody that does what we do. Kona was the Super Bowl of Ironman. We got a lot of no's along the way, because there is not real qualification system for us to qualify for to do. Have to be invited, and it took 7 years for us to be invited to the big day.
It was always the goal. I mean, that was always like I think certainly when we came into the sport, if you did Ironman and you told somebody that the first question you got was like, oh, you mean like the one in Hawaii? And so we wanted to experience that. And so there were a lot of setbacks because just simply finishing an Ironman or doing it in a certain time was not the way for us to get in. And there were some really hard, challenging moments. I mean, I remember in 2017 doing a race with Kyle with a team that had already been invited to Kona and a team that didn't have our resume. And it really hurt us mentally. And we would just say to ourselves, like, we have to go start. We have to at least try. And, one of the times that happened was the day they surprised us with a bib at the finish line. And we tell this story often that what if we had just not done the race that day? What if we had gone home? And, we even had flat tires that day on the bicycle,
Wow.
Multiple flat tires. And it was like, just imagine if we, had somebody drive us home and skipped the end of the race, like we wouldn't have found that. So there was a lot of challenges to keep moving, and the races themselves weren't easy. They never are. But we just kind of remained steadfast in that goal that we would, at best, we would never stop moving until they called us. And at worst, we would always be moving forward.
Such a great motto. I love it. And not only were you able to compete once, but you also returned earlier this year to Kona. What did it mean to you to have the opportunity to return? And
if you told me I could go back next year, I'd go. I mean, there's not a more magical experience that we've shared as athletes and more importantly as brothers. But that first race was so intense, the one that we did in 2018. We had a lot of really low moments, and I think we allowed that intensity to kind of control the way we experienced the race, which is understandable. I mean, we waited 7 years to get there, and we really wanted to perform. We didn't think we'd ever get the chance to go back. And so getting to go back was like a second chance at life. And we went there with just this determination that no matter what happened, we would be grateful for the opportunity. And that created this amazing dialogue with us throughout the day, that we could experience the highs and lows of racing an Ironman, but we could do it in a way that was just freeing. So it was really special to go back because it allowed us to say, let's make sure that if this is the last one, that we'll never have a single regret about what occurred throughout this experience.
Would you say it was a mindset change and the goal was to enjoy the experience rather than focus on the outcome?
Exactly. It was to focus on the experience and the process. I mean, it's so much work to get ready. Kyle is part of this getting ready. It's not like, hey, I'll see you at the race. I'll let you know if I'm ready. It's, you need to come train with me. And, we were raising money for our foundation. It was not let's just show up and race. And so it was a mindset shift that the finish line was not going to be the thing that was the most gratifying part of it. And we learned that the first time. The finish line is very special. And you saw the video. I mean, it's iconic watching us come across that line. I could watch it on repeat 1,000 times. But when I watch it, what I think about is every step we took to get there and the mindset that we had to get there, that we would be grateful for that. And it made all the difference in how we felt and how we responded to adversity.
And in terms of moments of adversity, could you give us any examples of those?
There's so many.
We could do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah, I think for one, Brent got stung by jellyfish immediately when we entered the water. So he got bites all over his body. So that was a difficult challenge for him to overcome. And then while we were in the water, there was another competitor that was swimming around us, and they went to their fault, but water got into my eyes, then Fred wasn't able to help me, so we had to wait till we got to the finish line to wipe my eyes. So the adversity is all around, and what makes you stronger is the love between us and the mindset that really helped us to elevate our team.
We'll have to send you the video series that we did that documented. It was a 6-part series we did in partnership with Hyundai Motor Corp. And there was a quote that I referenced in one of them, and it said, the quote is loosely, all my life I tried to avoid the struggles until I finally realized the struggles were my life. And I think if you asked us about 2018, we could tell you all the things that went wrong. And if I told you about 2024, it was really actually a lot of the same stuff. We had a little bit of challenge on the swim. Kyle mentioned the jellyfish and the water in his eyes. And by the way, the water in your eyes doesn't sound like much until you realize Kyle can't wipe his eyes. So he's trying to blindly keep me moving, and the wind on the bike and the heat on the bike and the rain on the run and the blisters and the discomfort in Kyle's legs and shoulders, all these things. But never once was it like, oh God, my back hurts so bad, I should just stop. Whereas in 18, that pressure to finish, the outcome was so intense that we didn't do it. So yeah, there was tons of moments of adversity this year too, but every one of them was just met with a totally different mindset where it's probably the most successful day we've ever had on a race course.
Amazing. And yeah, you beat your previous time by 30 minutes. The conditions are 80 to 90% humidity. It must have been at least 30 degrees. So how do you train and prepare physically and mentally for those conditions? It must be quite hard.
Well, fortunately, we get a lot of humidity here where we live. So that definitely helps. The wind is hard to replicate, but we do get some pretty humid days. So I would do double runs. I would do an early run, but then I'd go back out in the afternoon, at kind of the heat of the day. Kyle and I would spend hours on the bike together, where we biked through every possible condition. We definitely had some days in August here where we hit that 80 to 90% humidity. So we do get to experience a little of that, but there's something about the islands and being that close to the ocean that you feel it all day. It's oppressive and you really can't fully experience it. I did try one other thing this year. I did some heat acclimation before we left. And so every day I would work out, and then before I would eat, I'd go get in a sauna or go get in a steam room and kind of force myself to stay in that state a little bit longer. And it was intense. I almost passed out one day. Thankfully I was with somebody. So we definitely tried to think through that type of stuff because of what the island throws at you.
So obviously this has been something that's bonded you together. In terms of like highlights, obviously finishing the kind of Ironman and beating your time, but are there kind of any other moments that you would say have been a highlight of you and Kyle racing together?
All of them. I mean, the Kona ones stand out, especially because of just the gravity of that experience and how special it is. But it's really all those little moments, that it's the grave space. It's the finish line is exciting. There's music, there's sound, there's pictures. But it's that we did a run in 2018 where we knew we needed to run together. And it was like, well, if we're going to do this, we have to meet at 5:30 and we're going to have to run for an hour until the sun comes up. And then there's a race. And so we'll do the race and then we'll run until we hit this mile target, this hour target. And I remember Kyle getting there and we both realized we didn't have a light. And, running without a headlamp, not as big a deal. If you're running solo, pushing a wheelchair is. And so we ended up doing this like 1.25 mile loop where we would just run to the end and then turn around and go back and run. And we just did this for an hour because I didn't want to break the chair. I couldn't see. And we both just kind of ran in silence. And when we finished, we were just both so happy. And it was the unspoken stuff. There wasn't this, that day was special, And so I think those are the ones that stick out because it's all that extra time that we really just get to share life together.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful answer. And in terms of, have you got any other challenges on the horizon?
Yeah, there will be we doing the Boston Marathon here in April. That's always the exciting one. I think we'll give Ironman a little bit of time off, but you never say never. The door is always going to be open. So we'll grow the Kyle Pease Foundation together, and the mission is to improve the lives of individuals with disabilities through sports and beyond. So we do a lot of local races here in Atlanta to push beyond our own limits.
You've done the nice segue into the next section, which I had planned, which was to talk about the foundations. I love the vision and the ethos and everything that you do obviously ladders back to the foundation. One thing that I noticed on your website was around empowering a new generation of athletes and not just inspiring them. Could just elaborate on what that means to you a little bit more?
Yeah, we really want them to see that at whatever they do, whether they work here at the Kyle Pease Foundation or whether they're doing a race at one of our events, we want them to see their full potential. So whenever that goes right to them, we want to literally walk alongside them and help them see their dreams. And that goes to a lot about empowering them to see what is truly possible to them.
A lot of people with disabilities are constantly told all the things that they can't do. And endurance sports doesn't do that. Endurance sports allows us to see, we've talked about it, allows you to see all the things you can do. And Kyle wanted to empower other individuals to know what their possible truly was. And so that's what we continue to do here. And we do it, we race because it does support the foundation, but it supports us too, because it's doing the same thing for Kyle and for me that the athletes of the foundation experience as well. So it's really saying, hey, there are a lot of wins out there and there is so much you can do with your life. Let us show you just a small piece of what that looks like.
Right.
I know we talked about the power of sport. I had two things earlier. One was pushing beyond limits, which we've certainly just been talking about, but the other one was community. How has the community that you've built grown over the years? You obviously started in 2011, I believe, and we're now obviously 2024. So how has that community grown over time?
Oh, it has grown exponentially. We have seen it go from one athlete to 150 plus athletes that we serve on a yearly basis. And when we started out, we set out for them to see their full possible, as Brent mentioned.
It lets them, it lets them get around each other. It creates that connection, so the community, it's the individuals that are already experiencing it. It's people seeing people with a similar condition to Kyle seeing that, but it's also the siblings and the parents and this whole support network, and now volunteers that have never experienced it, people that work at the foundation that didn't have that as part of their life, that it pulls stuff out of them. There was a wonderful quote that said, this gentleman who raced with us back in 2015, he said, "I thought I was signing up for this truly altruistic thing, that I was going to come out and I was going to make this experience for somebody else. I never knew how special the experience would be for me." And so that community connection gets built from the athlete to the volunteer to the families and everybody that's connected. And so, Kyle was going into some of the stats, but that's just a small piece. 150 athletes, that doesn't tell you how many family members and volunteers and everybody who's making this thing truly possible.
Yeah, I think everybody had the piece of the pie, that everyone gets something out of it, whether it's running or whether it's, having a friend, becoming a better parent and all that. Everyone had the piece of the pie, and it's really cool to see.
I can imagine you also get so many different people from all walks of life connecting and, as you say, bonding via this experience, which is something that's really, really positive. Carl, just to start with you, if there was someone that was listening that, had a similar condition to you and was nervous about participating or wanting to get active, what advice would you give to them?
Get after it, just try, and you never know the impact that you're gonna have on the people around you. Just get after it and just focus on what you can do rather than what you can't do.
Amazing. And Brent, if there was a friend or a sibling of someone out there with a similar condition to Carl, what advice would you on giving them to help to starting to push these boundaries of what you can achieve together?
The first step is always the hardest, and so I just always encourage you to take that first step. There's a wonderful story that we share from our first experience in Kona where we couldn't wrap our head around going 5 feet. And there was these little traffic cones and they were 5 feet apart. And Kyle would just say to me, "Go to the next one." "Okay, good. Now go to the next one." And that's what I want people to know is you think that we're telling you to go do a 140.6 mile race. You think we're telling you you've got to sign up for this foundation and do this great big thing. And that's not what I need you to do. I need you to just take one step because, as Kyle said, you don't know the power of what that step is and what it might mean to somebody else. And so we did it in 2011 by doing a race and then starting a foundation. But now the steps that are being taken are by so many more individuals than just us. And that's the impact of those first steps that you can take.
It's all about that compounding interest and not necessarily seeing what the big goal is, but making those small targets that you can achieve. And
if any of your listeners or would like to get involved, they can visit our website, KylePeaseFoundation.org, and that way they can see all the programs that we offer and how they can connect with us via social media or email.
Amazing. Yeah, I can put the link in the comments as well, so that people can go straight to your website. So we ask a series of kind of concluding questions to everyone that joins the podcast, and the first one is: who is someone in your life that inspires you, either past or present?
For me, it's this guy right here.
I mean, that's the easy answer, is to say each other, because it's truly what happens. But that's one of the reasons I love doing endurance sports. I guess I would add is that it's the everyday hero. I mean, when we turn on the news, we don't always hear about the nurse that works, the midnight to 7 shift every single, week. And then at 7, she's feeding a family and taking them to school and still moving. Like, those are the people you see doing these endurance events. They're not going to be celebrated. They're not going to hoist some trophy above their head. They're just doing it to see what their possible is. And that inspires us because it's how we found this life, was watching those everyday heroes do something that was seemingly impossible at one point in their life.
Yeah, I love the thought that there's so much extraordinary in the ordinary, that if you look into different people in your life or you cross someone in the street, that you never really know what they're capable of. I think it's
right.
It's quite a powerful concept. And the next question is, what is your favorite sporting memory?
My favorite sporting memory.
Kona.
Yeah.
I mean, it's Kona by a long shot. I mean, we've experienced some really cool stuff together, like going to sporting events, but to be able to watch it play out on the island of Hawaii together, there's nothing like it, and nothing that I think I could ever experience like that.
Amazing. And what is a quote that you live by?
One of the quotes that I live by is, the card that I would deal on an ideal, but you play like a winner every day.
I love that. That's amazing. I just sent this one to a friend this morning. It's from the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truths you spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools. And I just love that because it just reminds me of life. Like you ride up and you ride down, and if you treat those moments the same, that's life, and that's Ironman, and that always resonated with me.
Yeah, I think, like Brett there, I think you have to acknowledge it, embrace the challenges that you face in, that any of us face in them, because those challenges will make you stronger. And that's why I love my adversity, and that everything is preparing me for the next challenge.
As you say, confronting your challenges really allows you to build and become stronger. And as we talked about throughout this podcast, push your boundaries of what is achievable. I came across a really nice quote online of someone when you were applying and trying to get into Kona, and they said these guys are just scratching the surface of what they can do. If you take some time to look and reflect at all that you've achieved, as Kyle mentioned earlier, the exponential growth of the foundation, you've competed in world Ironman championships, and also you think of the countless kind of people that you've helped to improve their lives with throughout your community. Have you taken some time to look back and reflect and be proud of what you've achieved?
In the heat of the moment, no, but we need to get step back in and look at all of our accomplishments. Yes, I am very proud of us, and you gotta keep going. You never settle for status quo. You always have to keep pushing up. So, yes, we're proud, but knowing that there's a lot more proposed for us to accomplish.
Yeah, amazing. It's been absolutely brilliant to talk to both of you. You are truly inspirations, and what you've achieved and what you continue to do is, just outstanding. So I wanted to say thank you very much for coming on the podcast, but also keep doing what you're doing. And I don't doubt that we won't see you at Kona at some point in the future.
Well, as Kyle said, we won't ever say never, but thank you for having us on and for helping highlight what we do, both as athletes as well as with our foundation. And it means a lot to help amplify all the special things we've been able to do together.
Yeah, thank you very much.